Surprisingly, a question I get asked a lot is, what is your favorite cut of meat? I don't know whether it's because I'm Tasmanian and we have lots of great beef here, but I get asked that question a lot. And I always have the same answer, and it is beef cheek. I love beef cheek. Now, you may not have cooked with beef cheek before, and it is, as it sounds, just the cheek of the cow. So the way that meat works is the more the muscle works, the more flavor it develops. But the more the muscle works, the tougher it is. So beef cheek is working all the time because they're always chewing grass. So it takes a long time to cook, but they're really cheap, which is great. And this is the cheek itself. It's a big sort of chunk of meat, and I'm going to trim it up so that it cooks quicker and so that we've got something a little more delicate to plate. So I'm going to keep this part here, the thickest part of the actual cheek. So I'll trim this bit off, and from there just trim up the edges so we have a nice sort of uniform piece of meat. Those little trimmings you can keep and use if you wanted to make a red wine sauce, but we're not going to do that. So they'll end up going to Max and Molly, and Max and Molly will love that. They love beef cheek. All right, I've had my pan on, getting nice and hot. So I'm going to put a little bit of oil on my cheeks and season them before they go into this pan. And then I'm just going to get some color on the outside, and then we're going to douse it in stock and put it in the oven. Beef cheeks take anywhere between 3 and 5 hours to cook, so you need a little bit of time up your sleeve to do this one. And a slow cooker is really handy if you've got one. You want to hear a sizzle when they go in. So we're going to get some good colour on those, and then we'll put our stock in. There's some great colour on those cheeks, so I'll add in my stock now. And that's really all you need. It just needs to cover the bottom of the cheeks so that we've got some steam in there all the time. Now you can put the lid on, and that way you won't have to keep adding stock into your pan, or you can put it in like that and do a bit of a dry roast. I'm going to put the lid on so I don't have to worry about adding any stock. And then I'm going to pop it into my oven, which is set at about 120 degrees. And I know it's going to take at least 3 hours, so I'm going to give it 3 hours and then check on it. And it's probably going to take closer to 5 hours because beef cheeks work really hard, so take a long time to cook. To serve with our beef cheeks, I'm going to do a little pumpkin puree, some charred Spanish onions or red onions, and some baby kifla potatoes. So pumpkin puree first. Get a little pot on, throw in a couple of knobs of butter and some garlic, to start building our flavour, and a little bit of oil. I'm going to melt that down a couple of minutes just so our butter is nice and foamy, and then I'm going to throw in my pumpkin, give that a toss through, then some water. Just let that come down until it's nice and soft and blitz it up. So purees are really easy, and this pumpkin puree will go really well with the savoury beef. The sweetness in the pumpkin will complement the beef perfectly. My beef cheeks have taken about 5 hours. You can see how much they've shrunk, but they're really gelatinous and soft now. If I push them, they're beautiful. And they've got this sort of glazed look about them, which is exactly what I wanted. Now I'm going to twice cook them, so I'm going to carve them in a minute and pan fry them. Before we get on to that, our little Spanish onions, I'm going to turn our pan on, put a little bit of oil in our pan. I'm going to cook these onions off. So I just want to get some char on the outside. So a little bit of oil in, and then place them cut side down in our pan. A few of them in. And I've also got some kifla potatoes. Now I've parboiled these. So I started with some cold water, threw the little kiflas in, and then brought that water up to the boil. Once it got to the boil, pretty much turned it off, and they're nice and tender. But all I'm going to do is throw them into this pan at the end, get some heat into them, get a little bit of colour on the outside with some butter, and they'll be ready to go as well. And while that's getting ready, I'll carve my beef cheeks. So I just want to cut them into thirds. And you can see that exposes that beautifully cooked beef and all that gelatinous, yummy, gorgeous mouthfeel that you get from beef cheeks, which we're going to caramelise up. I'll turn over my onions. I've got some real char on the outside of them. And then we'll put our cheeks in, cut side down, throw in our potatoes, and then a couple of knobs of butter. Give that a little mix about. All right, time to plate up. I'll grab a bowl and then pop some of my pumpkin puree in the bottom of this bowl. Now this acts like my sauce as well, so I want to make sure there's a good amount in the bottom so that everything can sort of sit on top of it. And then just grab a piece of our onion, and we'll pop that there. That beef, oh man. A couple of pieces of our beef, some of the little baby kiflers in there as well. Some micro herbs. And that, I think, is the best way to have beef cheek. It takes a little bit of time, so you need some time up your sleeve, but cutting it in half and then giving it some colour on the cut side is the best way to go about it, I think. They're so sticky and gelatinous, and the mouthfeel is great. If you haven't tried them, give them a try. So that's it, pumpkin puree, twice cooked beef cheeks, charred onions, and baby kiflers.